Before we go any further, if you value serious, well-researched wartime history and practical survival knowledge that actually stands up to scrutiny, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment sharing what era or topic you want covered next. This channel is built for people who care about facts, context, and lessons that still matter. Now, let's get into something most documentaries mention only in passing, even though it quietly protected thousands of civilian homes during the Second World War and remains disturbingly effective today. During World War II, civilians did not have alarm systems, CCTV, or police response times measured in minutes. In occupied Europe, rural Britain, and parts of Eastern Europe, a home intrusion was not a nuisance crime. It could mean looting, arrest, or worse. Out of this pressure came a deceptively simple defensive method that relied not on weapons, but on human psychology, terrain control, and noise discipline. It was designed to alert occupants, disorient intruders, and buy time without revealing who was inside or how prepared they were. The reason it still works today is simple. Human movement, fear, and instinct have not changed. This defense relied on controlled noise traps and layered disruption rather than confrontation. Civilians understood that the goal was not to fight, but to detect, confuse, and delay. Homes were turned into early warning systems using ordinary materials arranged with intent. How wartime civilians turned sound into an early warning system is often overlooked. In blackout-era Europe, silence at night was absolute. Any unfamiliar sound stood out instantly. Households exploited this by placing loose, unstable, but harmless objects along likely entry routes. Gravel paths were preferred over packed earth. Inside homes, glass bottles, tin cups, or metal tools were hung near doors and windows using string or wire, positioned so they would collide if disturbed. These were not random. They were set at ankle height or knee height, where an intruder moving carefully would still brush against them. The key was subtle amplification. A small movement produced an unmistakable sound that carried through darkened rooms. To apply this today, the principle is the same even if the materials change. A narrow side passage beside a house can be covered with loose stones instead of paving slabs. Wind chimes are too obvious and expected, but, a suspended cluster of metal washers or nuts behind a fence panel creates a sharp, unfamiliar noise when touched. Indoors, a glass jar filled with screws, placed behind a door that opens inward, will rattle violently if the door moves even slightly. The goal is not volume, but clarity. The sound must be distinct enough to wake or alert you instantly. Why disorientation mattered more than confrontation in World War II home defense is critical to understand. Civilians rarely tried to physically stop intruders. Instead, they focused on breaking the intruder's confidence. Noise without a visible source suggested witnesses, patrols, or occupants already awake. Many wartime accounts describe intruders retreating immediately after triggering such traps, convinced they had been detected. Fear of being reported or ambushed did the work for the homeowner. Modern intruders operate under the same assumptions. They rely on speed, surprise, and quiet. When that quiet is broken unexpectedly, hesitation sets in. Even a few seconds of uncertainty is often enough to make them abandon the attempt. This is why passive defenses still outperform aggressive ones in many situations. So, how layered placement made the system effective rather than relying on a single trap was another wartime insight. You see, one noise source could be dismissed as chance, but multiple disturbances along a path suggested intention. Civilians placed sound traps outside first, then at entry points, and then, inside hallways. Each layer increased stress and uncertainty for any intruder. Importantly, the occupants themselves remained silent. No lights were turned on, no voices were raised. Silence following noise is far more unsettling than confrontation. A practical application today would be to, think in zones. The perimeter zone alerts you that someone is approaching. The entry zone confirms an attempt is being made. The interior zone tells you exactly where movement is occurring. Each zone should use a slightly different sound so you can distinguish location instantly, even when half asleep. How this system bought time for escape or concealment rather than conflict is something survivalists often miss. In wartime Europe, homes frequently had secondary exits, hidden cellars, or attic crawl spaces. The early warning allowed families to move children, hide documents, or escape before an intruder fully entered. Time was the true weapon. Applied today, this means pairing detection with a plan. You really need to know where you retreat to. Also, know how long it takes to secure a door, reach a safe room, or exit quietly. A noise trap without a follow-up action is incomplete. WWII civilians rehearse this mentally because, hesitation could be fatal. Why modern technology has not replaced this method but quietly complements it comes down to reliability. Batteries fail, sensors glitch, software crashes. A piece of metal striking glass works every time. Many modern security professionals still recommend mechanical noise alerts in remote or low-power environments for this reason. They simply cannot be hacked, jammed, or disabled remotely. This WWII home defense trick survives because it respects human behavior rather than trying to overpower it. It alerts without revealing, intimidates without confrontation, and delays without escalation. That combination is rare, and that is why it worked then and still works now. If this kind of deep, practical history matters to you, subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone who appreciates real wartime lessons, and leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences. This channel exists to preserve knowledge that deserves to be remembered and used.